What up, guys? Been a while. So Casual Commander. The last video I uploaded was like 6 months ago.
Yeah,
Which you didn't watch because you're my bestest friend in the whole wide world and you don't support me in any way whatsoever. You broke, motherfucker.
Yeah, I wasn't in it. I didn't watch the shit I in.
So today we want to talk about just Commander as a format, and we want to talk about, the problems we have with the format. And we want to deep dive into that. So this is going to be a longer video, but I would like to do more of these long discussions about stuff. Obviously, when it's just me by myself, it's not that interesting.
Yeah, honestly, I actually kind of want to open up open discussion. So if anybody watches this and cares to talk to us about this sort of stuff, I'd like comments, I guess. It's just certain things I've got a problem with in the game, even though I love the game, and Kamigawa coming out is definitely.
We're recording this. We're recording this. What day is it? Tuesday.
Yeah, the 15th.
So the pre-release just dropped this last weekend, and the actual set drops this Friday. So this is kind of a perfect time to talk about, the format as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got some bullet points that we wanted to make sure that we hit. So
yeah. So the first thing I put down on the list, anti-play style, and. An example of this is something like Elish Norn, where it's Elish Norn is completely opposed to...
I love Elish Norn. He hates it, so there you go. There's something right there.
It is my most hated card in the entire game, and I know things like Vorniclex exist. I know they exist, but Elish Norn...
That's another thing. Please put in the comments, whoever watches this, which Praetor do you think is the most busted? My vote is Vorniclex. I will not play that card. I just hate it, and so I'd be a hypocrite if I played it. He thinks Elish Norn is the one that is the most busted.
Maybe most busted is
the one you hate the most.
I do hate it the most.
Okay.
But to be fair, nobody I play with is an animal so much to actually play Orniclex.
So the bullet points normally shouldn't just be one card, because that's the thing is, if you're making one card your bullet point, that's hey, this card just came out, it's been around for a few months, and it's a problem, we should ban it. These cards have been around for a while.
I have two cards.
And Jesse's just I need to talk about this to vent. So do it, man. Vent. Get it off your chest.
Elish Norn, a +2 to everything you have, and
Don't
a -2 to everything you have. Everything else doesn't matter. It kills, if you're doing a weenie deck, it just kills you.
If you're doing a token deck, 90% of the token decks are going to just die.
Sure, but I'm okay with fucking tokens over. It's just the tiny monsters. Monsters. It's the tiny creatures that really get me. Because, if you're playing something I don't know, Rogues, because that's a fun deck I like to enjoy. And the anthems are important. If the anthems leave and Elish Norn's on the field, your deck just no longer exists. And at that point, what's the point in playing?
So I will say this. So I love Elish Norn, like I said. I love legendary creatures. I love what it does. To me, it doesn't do anything that I'm man, I hate that. It does everything that I'm looking for as a card that costs 7. That being said, Brendan played Elish Norn. This is our third buddy that we played with. He played it the entire... he played it, a couple of weeks back, a month back maybe.
Yeah.
He dropped it, and I was been a long time since I've gone against one. I'm yeah, this ain't fun.
Yeah.
When I say it's not fun, it's not that I think it's so busted it needs to go, but it is what it is. It's a Praetor, and it's hard to go up against. It definitely makes an impact on the board.
Yeah.
Because I was okay, all my stuff getting -2, I can't use it for combat because they're weak as shit. So I'm now whatever doesn't die off just the initial effect, I got to figure out a way to make something out of this. Once I did get rid of the Elish Norn, I was okay, I can kind of play again.
Elish Norn is really kind of actually a gateway into a bigger problem I have that leads into something I call anti-play style that goes into a ban list discussion. Where it's Elish Norn, it just ends weenie or ends token. And I don't think things that just completely eradicate a portion of the game should really exist.
Like Narset saying the Planeswalker saying hey, drawing cards, that's not happening anymore.
Yeah, saying no to drawing cards, I feel drawing cards is kind of a little bit different. Being able to say oh, I have wheels, and then I stop everyone else from drawing shouldn't exist. But I feel you should be able to draw, a few cards. I don't know.
Well, Hull Breacher, they got rid of it.
Hull Breacher was a problem.
Well, they got rid of Hull Breacher, because obviously, unlike Notion Thief says, when it comes into play, you guys don't draw cards. I draw the cards that you would have drawn.
Yeah.
Drawing cards is great, but Hullbreacher made treasures, which is probably better because now you have all this mana that you can actually cast stuff with, as opposed to just I have cards in my hand, but the game state's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Also, on top of that, Notion Thief has 2 colors, means it can be put in less decks than Hullbreacher. Hullbreacher's easier. Hullbreacher costs 1 less, actually. Notion Thief costs 4. Hullbreacher costs 3. So that's kind of a separate discussion. But I don't know.
But both of those fall under anti-playstyle as well. Both Notion Thief and Hullbreacher.
I'm okay with a card saying like, hey, the strategy that's a common strategy, I'm gonna try to like nerf it and like counter it. I'm okay with that. I just don't like cards that do that for next to no cost. And to me, Hullbreacher only costing 3, that's a card that if you saw it on a 7-drop and the stat line was fine, you'd be like, I consider playing it. But the fact that it's on a 3-drop, you're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I guess. There's just certain cards, I don't know. The ban list so Commander's a game about like the freedom in Magic, and like having more cards means the game is more creative and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, the ban list definitely should exist. And because like there's cards in there like the land that says just tap it and return a legendary to the hand. Why? Of course that's banned because your commander's always legendary. Having a land that says that basically says you just can't have a commander on the field.
So that kind of segues, because we don't really have an order to our topics, but that kind of segues into the Rule 0 conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I don't know when this became a thing because we've been playing Commander since like the end of 2017. It's kind of, I mean, we've taken some breaks here and there, but It's been nonstop for the last 2 years. We've been playing Commander.
Yeah.
Really?
No, dude, I'm sorry.
You couldn't put it on silent.
Oh, that's good.
So the Rule 0 conversation, I feel like it's become more prominent in like the last year and a half, where for some reason now all the Commander like play channels that you watch, they not game nights because their shit's scripted. We're like,
don't say their name outright. You don't want to advertise for someone.
I'm not advertising for them. I'm just acknowledging in the community people know about their channel.
Yeah.
But game nights, they have it scripted what they're gonna play ahead of time, like they already know basically. But like another channel like why can't I hate your deck? They'll actually be like, yeah, we're gonna have the Rule 0 conversation. Hope you guys are okay with it. And obviously everyone undersells what they're playing. Like they do the Brendan thing where they're like, the deck's not that good. I mean, it's okay.
This is a fun deck. This is casual.
Yeah, just casual.
When it's like Infinite Central.
Yeah.
Turn 3 game.
So I don't think the Rule 0 conversation, I don't think it works.
It works as long as you understand the people you're talking to.
True. There are certain people that just don't understand power levels.
Yeah.
Like, they'll look at a card and go like, oh, yeah, that card, like, we look at a card that Brendan plays and be like, that's absolutely busted. Even if it was in something that I like to do, I still wouldn't do it because it's too easy. Yeah. Brendan would be like, I'll do it. I'll feel no shame about doing it. And then...
fuck you guys.
Right. And then we'll play one thing that, he doesn't like, and then he'll be like, you guys are assholes. Why would you play that?
Yeah.
You're terrible.
It got to the points where, like, a little while back, I was like, why do I even dial back my decks at all anymore? Looking over at your board and his board.
I don't remember what I have, but...
I don't know. Maybe Kalia or something like that. The whole deck.
My board presence in Kalia, I feel like it's not bad.
Shut up! But no, it gets to the point where it's like, Rule 0 only works if your friends aren't fucking assholes.
Well, on top of that, so there's the question of, should Commander be regulated like that? Where should it be up to the ban list committee, to be the ones that saying you can and can't play this? Which we adhere to the ban list.
I like there being an order.
Yeah, we like having a ban list that's what you have to follow. The problem is there's so many cards in Commander that are like basically doing the exact same thing as cards that are on the ban list that just for some reason haven't been touched. So there's kind of a weirdness. So we brought up earlier, we had a kind of mini pregame conversation to this video. And the conversation I brought up in my previous video, the 3 cards that I'd want banned and the 3 cards I'd want back from the list. For anyone who didn't catch the video, I mean, I'll save you a bit of time because I don't really care about people going back to watch that. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. But the 3 cards I said I want banned were Sarah Ascendant, Cyclonic Rift, and Soul Ring. Sarah Ascendant because it doesn't belong in this format without an errata. Cyclonic Rift because it's probably the laziest win condition ever. For, what is it, 7 mana or 8 mana? You bounce everything back. It costs you nothing but just playing the card.
I don't
know. And I win.
for what it does, it's a steal. So
And it makes no sense why it's legal.
Yeah.
And then lastly, Sol Ring, just for the fact that Sol Ring gets thrown into every deck. It has no reason not to be thrown into every deck.
No.
It's the one card in our play group that we're like, that's banned. We have other cards that no one's tried to play yet, so it's not been an option, like Cyclonic Rift. We haven't had to house ban it because it hasn't shown up.
Yeah.
But our buddy Brendan, if he had the money and he came across Cyclonic Rift, he'd pick it up and he'd play it, and we'd be like, wow, nice job.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Because, like, if I had a Teferi's Protection, I'd play it. I like the card. I like what it does. I like I can't remember what the mechanic's called. You, like, fade out of the game for a minute.
I think it's called phasing.
Phasing, that's right.
Phasing.
But I like stuff like that. Even though it is, I would say, just inherently busted. Just the chance to completely avoid effects that are, like, affect the entire board. And the existence of Teferi's Protection... I would say solidifies the existence of some of the bans on the list. Like some of the cards I want back, which is like Sway of the Stars, I like that card.
Which is a cool card that I think could be around if you didn't have a few of the things of being able to flicker, get it back at the end.
I understand why it's banned with like phasing and time counters.
Still think it could come back because we have plenty of cards that, like, if combined with one thing makes it broken, but we're cool with it.
Half of me wants to say, let the game be lawless, no ban list, but then that land exists where it's like, commanders just aren't allowed on the field.
Yeah, so I think the solution, and I want to get back to the 3 of the cards I want back off the list, but real quick, I think the solution is we do need a ban list because you can't trust, a lot of people just have no shame, don't care, don't have a way of reading power levels. They just, like, they're what we would call a tryhard, where they're basically like, our goal in Commander is we want to win, but we want to...
Oh, that's not my goal.
No, but I'm saying, like, you want your deck to do what it does. That's what you want. You want your deck to do what it does. Yeah. Whether you win or not, it kind of comes down to, like, chance, how the game plays out, whatever. But the main thing is you want to be able to play your style. Yeah. There are a lot of cards that come out that are really, really good, but they're obviously good. They require little to no setup. Their mana cost is a joke. And then you're just like... Well, if everyone's doing that, and I can see how good it is, do I have any interest in doing it? No, not my style. Don't want to win that way. And that's basically what it comes down to, is me and you don't want to win that way.
Sure.
Brendan's like, I just want to win.
Yeah. I want to do things my way, like the song. But I guess that actually kind of goes into, like, a point that isn't on here, which is, like, repetition. When your deck does something, or when you know of a card that does something insane, like Cyclonic Rift, and it's like, oh yeah, the card's obviously good, after playing that a few times and just blatantly winning games off of Cyclonic Rift, do you need to keep doing it?
That's happened, I mean, I'm sure we're not the only ones, that happens in people's play groups all the time. You see a card, you go like, hey, that looks kind of cool. I mean, yeah, it's really strong, but like, I want to try it in my play group. You try it. I had Ristic Study for a little while, and I know there's more cards that I've had, but I had Ristic Study for a little while. I was playing it in Zur, and I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Like, give me my draw power. Played it. It was easy. I had to literally do nothing other than ask people, hey, do you want to pay the 1 all the time?
Yeah, and wins games.
And that's the thing is, for 3 mana, the ability to just be like, every card that you play from here on out, unless you want to just add 1 onto the tax, a lot of people can't even afford to do that. They're like, sure, like, you can draw that card.
3 mana? You mean 4 mana. Zur only costs 4. Gets it straight from the deck.
I know, but, well, you gotta attack the next turn. I'm not giving it haste, but, yeah, you do it for a certain amount of time, and then you just go like, I'm over that. Like, I see how powerful it is, and, like, with Ristic Study, I wasn't winning with the things I wanted to do with Zur. All I was doing was, I play Ristic Study, I get into such an advantage that, like, well, that's kind of all I needed.
Yeah.
And then a few of these other things pick you off, but the advantage it gave me, it was too easy, and I'm like, I'm good. Should Ristic Study be banned? I don't know. I kind of think, yeah, because now that I'm thinking about it, if you're a competitive player, everyone plays Ristic Study in their blue deck.
Well, banning a card just because it's competitively viable doesn't seem like the right course of action.
I think if everyone plays a card, like, not us, because our argument is basically like, it's too good and I don't need to play it. I don't want to win that way. But when everyone that's trying to win, and they don't care how good it is, or like, there's like, I want to play it, don't care what it does. If it's so good that every person that plays blue and is like trying to be a tryhard plays it, then that's a problem.
I think the argument to be made is that every competitive deck shouldn't be the same.
Yeah, there shouldn't be, like, Cyclonic Rift is a staple in blue decks that are trying to win. That shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
You should be like, okay, like, you know, we talk about like ramp cards in green, like that's something that green does, but no one's like, God, you got a ramp in growth, like what am I gonna do? Like no one does that.
Yeah. It's like Commander is a format about like creativity and how you build your deck, and when you lose the creativity and how you build your deck and it's just about what's best, or I don't want to fucking play with you anymore. When you just suck the fun out of the atmosphere by being like, I'm just going to play all the most busted cards every time, and none of my decks have any uniqueness to them. And uniqueness does definitely make a game more fun. When someone's playing a card, you're like, what does that do? What is that? Where'd that come from? You're like, I've never even heard this card before, and it does something wacky with another card that you're playing. It's always like a unique experience. When everybody's playing just the highly viable cards and nothing else, it's just like...
So, not to crap on game nights, but I used to like, you know, 2 years ago when I like switched from Yu-Gi-Oh! To Commander, and I was like, okay, this is my thing, I'm going to play this and be like invested. Game nights was what helped, and I watched that and I learned a lot, and I got to watch how people play, whatever, but when I would watch Josh Lee Kwai play, and I, you know, if I ever met the guy, maybe we'd have a conversation where I don't dislike him, but from just the outside in, looking in, like, I do dislike him because of his play style and how he is. His play style, we talked about it with 5 colors, where his, you know, 5 color decks, at a certain point, if you don't have a real main plot you're doing, it just becomes good card tribal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, he does that, but he does that for every deck that he plays, because his budget is infinite. So, and I'm sure Wizards probably helps him even get certain cards, but it's like
his budget is printing press.
If he's playing blue, Ristic Study and Cyclonic Rift are both of those decks. If he's playing white, Teferi's Protection's probably in there. Smothering Tithe is in there for sure. It's in every one of his decks that plays white.
Maybe it's because I've never played it, but Teferi's Protection kind of gets a pass for me.
I
just want one.
Like another blue card, Fierce Guardianship, the one that's like, hey, I control my commander, counter something, doesn't require anything. Like, I don't have to pay the mana cost.
You really dislike those cards.
Yes, because I don't, that's another conversation, but I don't like cards that say commander on it, because the problem with it is this commander was built to basically be like, hey, these cards that everyone's playing, here's a different format to use them in, but I don't like cards that are built for the format, if that makes sense. Legendary creatures, it's fine. I'm okay with that. I don't really need them to say commander in the text. But when you make counters that just say, all I need is my commander, and a commander is something you pretty much can always have at your disposal, that's a problem. When it costs you nothing to play, that's a problem. So anyway, there's that part of the conversation. But yeah, just in general, Josh Lee Kwai plays like just good, like, there's so many good card staples that at least like 15 slots out of his deck for every color are just like, well, here's these good cards.
I fear that Josh Lee Kwai is going to watch this video and be like, hey man, what the fuck?
I don't care. If he wants to square up, like, we can go at it. Like, he's...
No, don't fight the man.
I definitely would.
What?
I don't like him. I don't like him.
This is officially a call out.
The only thing that would ever change that is if he was like, one, I'd like to sit there and have a conversation with you, and maybe you just don't, if I've misjudged him, which is, that's a possibility. And the other thing is if he ever invited me to game nights. Now, after seeing this, he never would. Which is fine. I don't want to have, like, Disney up my ass, because I know he used to work for Disney, but, like, just... If you guys want to change game nights, I know you're doing well, and I'm Mr. like 200 subscribers, so what do I know? But like, I stopped watching your channel. This is a separate thing from what we're talking about. But
we have to erase this from the video.
No, we don't. But if you ever wanted to like change your channel and make it good to watch again, stop being so censored and edited and actually show a little of your personality. But anyway, all right. So back to Commander as a format. So what did we do? We talked about your
this video is brought to you by Game Night.
No, it's not.
We are advertising for them.
Okay.
And against Josh Lee Kwai.
So banlist, we didn't get all the way into the banlist conversation like I want to.
No.
Okay.
So he already said 3 cards you wanted off the ban list. One more time. What were they?
No, I did the ones I want banned. I didn't say the ones I want unbanned.
Okay.
So I want Iona because I play Kalia and I'd like to see that card again. I wish we could bring back the banlist commander. That way, like, you could say, hey, you can't have as Iona as a commander, but as a in the 99, when people make the argument, I don't want to get on this too much, but anyway, I think Iona's not as crippling as other things in the format. Anyway,
Iona perfectly defines anti-play style.
It does, but I'm saying there's other things that already exist that are legal, and I have to be like, I want to play Iona, but everyone else is like, no, that's not okay. But then they play other stuff that's broken. Anyway, Iona, Sylvan Primordial, me and him were having a conversation. about, like Avenger of Zendikar and Sylvan Primordial are the same mana cost. Sylvan Primordial can get an additional ETB. Like, the argument for Sylvan Primordial is like, oh, well, you could flicker that and you can get the effect multiple times. That's busted. And I'm like, Avenger of Zendikar literally could do the exact same thing, has an ETB effect that's pretty busted, and people just tolerate it. And they're like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. And I'm like, every time I see Avenger of Zendikar, I'm like, boring. That's a green staple card that most people that are like, I'm just trying to win, that's a green tryhard card that Avenger of Zendikar is in there. We should do a separate video sometime about like just, here's the tryhard cards for this color. We should do that. But
this video's lawless already, so.
It's cool. So anyway, so that conversation was going on, and basically he kind of agreed with me that, not that Sylvan Primordial has no reason to be on the ban list, he just was like, maybe Avenger of Zendikar should be put on there. And that's all
honestly, I mean...
That's my main point, was that we have cards that exist that are just as bad, if not worse, than cards that are on the list. That's my problem.
Yeah, just give the Plants Defender. That'd solve it.
No, it's too late now, but...
Are erratas just, like... Is the only errata we're allowed to do is, like, change target player or creature to any target? Because, like, we can add erratas to cards that are clearly way too powerful and just change them slightly to make them acceptable. Like Avenger of Zendikar, if the plants had Defender, Avenger of Zendikar wouldn't be a problem. The problem with Sylvan Primordial is that Avenger of Zendikar and Sylvan Primordial are going to combo off of each other, and you're going to see both of them in the same deck. Not from you.
No, I know, but yeah, they could go in the same deck. I get that part. But anyway, the last card that I said I wanted back was Gristlebrand, and Gristlebrand just looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, that's it for the cards I want back off the list. The conversation about the ban list of does it need to exist? We both agree yes.
Yeah. Oh, real quick. My unbans are Sway of the Stars, Upheaval, and Gristlebrand.
Yeah,
because Gristlebrand just seems fun.
Yeah. Okay, so...
I get that it's busted.
So the ban list existing, we both agree yes, it needs to be in place. So the question is, should they let it be really light where like it's only the cards that everyone agrees like that's too busted, you can't have that? Or should they do... Because there were people that saw Hullbreacher and were like, I want that to stay. There were pirate players that were like, I want that. Merfolk players, maybe. Not the professor, but there was other merfolk players that were like, maybe I want that. So there's always going to be somebody that defends a card and somebody that hates it. But I wish, I don't know, I wish they would do more. I wish the rules committee was a little more active in banning and unbanning. Because in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it was almost like you looked forward to the ban list, but like you kind of knew like, okay, they're going to print these cards, they're going to let these cards run rampant for about a year and a half, and then they'll finally, sometimes not even that long, and then they'll ban it, and you knew that was a reoccurring process. Do I like the fact that we don't have that? That, like, we don't have to worry about, hey, I got this new card, it's going to get banned here shortly? I like that. While at the same time, a little more movement would be a little more exciting. That way, like, hey, here's a card that's on the ban list that some people want it back. Let's try it back in the format for a little while. See if it's as broken as everyone says it is. If it's not, we keep it. If not, we put it back on the list. No harm, no foul.
Sure. I mean, the thought of having cards flop in and out of the ban list, depending on like new cards that exist and stuff like that, doesn't excite me. And that's what happens when you eventually, like, every new set's going to have a card that does something with an obscure card that was made 10 fucking centuries ago because this game is ancient. And it has like a million cards. So there's going to be problem cards that like go off of each other that Wizards of the Coast just didn't see coming because they don't have enough playtesters to play every single card in combination with every single other card, and then 2 cards with this one card that do something ridiculous. But like individual instances of like definitely shouldn't exist. Hullbreacher is kind of one of them. Iona, I would argue, is one of them.
But it wasn't, when that card was made, Commander was like an afterthought.
Yeah, but the 1-drop. Angel, Flying Lifelink. 6.
Sarah sent it. I mean, that's a card I brought up in my, cards I want banned.
Yeah.
That card, when it was made, Commander was an afterthought. The fact that that card is legal in Commander, and I brought this up to Brendan, our friend that plays Sarah Send It in his Life Gain deck. What's the name of his Commander? It's that Ghost Chieftain thing or whatever?
It's I don't remember. It's the one that like every time you have an instance of life gain, it gets 2+1/+1s, and then you can pay
remove 6 +1/+1s
and pay a white and a black and exile a creature.
Yeah, that card like it cripples us. But anyway, when he gets out Saracendent,
it doesn't matter what his command
yeah,
is.
we'll be dead in like 3 turns. Because like, okay, a 6/6 flying lifelinker on turn 1. Fantastic. And I asked him, I go, why do you think they don't make 6/6 flying lifelinkers for 1, Brendan? Why do you think that is?
It was made where it's like your life total is supposed to be 30 in order to get that effect, but your starting life total on Commander's 40. When really it should just be when your starting life total is 1.5 times what your fucking life total is.
Just say when it's 10 more than your starting life total, you can do it.
Yeah. Honestly, it just should be banned from Commander or errated to say its effect isn't immediate.
Because I guarantee you, even if someone's not in a life gain deck, Saracendent, if someone was playing like a competitive deck and white is one of their colors, they're probably like, Saracendent's a 1-drop 6/6 flying lifelinker.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's just should.
Yeah. So we talked about the ban list, whether it should exist, how they should regulate it. We're just saying that I think they should be a little more involved. And although there are, a handful of cards that we want off the list, there's also a handful of cards that maybe we don't talk about right now, but we want on the list. They're like, we can agree that like this card's busted, only the tryhards play it, get rid of it. So,
hey fellas, why does Omniscience exist?
Why is there a card that just says you can cast stuff for free? It kind of defeats the whole purpose of like why I came to Magic, because in Yu-Gi-Oh, that's everything. Yeah. Nothing has a cost. And let me tell you, once you like play Magic, if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh player, some people might not like it, but for me, I was like, man, this is actually refreshing because I can play jank stuff that's not the super competitive, and I can have fun, and I also have a chance to win. As opposed to in Yu-Gi-Oh, if you're like playing like, hey, I like this deck, and it's kind of cool, and it's got a few combos, and then you play a tryhard player, you're going to lose in 1 or 2 turns. It's going to be over. You will have no chance.
And then you find the one person that's like, show and tell, turn 1, Omniscience, my whole deck, get wrecked.
Yes. Okay, so the next one I wanted to go to on your list, stale.
Okay.
So the game getting stale. So this is something that me and him have encountered, you would say, the last year?
Yeah. I feel like my main issue with it is just not having enough money to build more decks.
That's part of the reason a game, Commander can get stale. Commander can get stale because, as you said,
kind of
pricey. And if you're wanting to build a whole new deck, what does that take? Obviously, there's people that sub out, like I'll take this deck out of this deck box, so I don't have to buy a new one of those. I'm not one of those people normally. I'm like, if I have a deck and I'm like actually playing it a decent amount and it's one of the decks that's in my rotation, cool. So if I'm building a new deck, I buy a new deck box. Now that's like $20 apparently, because deck boxes are expensive. Yeah. Buy a new set of 100 sleeves. That's like $11, whatever, at least from our local card shop. And then, so that's $30 into your price right there. And then you have like, whatever color combo you're doing, you got your staples normally that you want of that colors, that just your favorite cards that you like. Then you got your lands. I'm basic lands, so to me, I'd never really have to pay anything to get the basics that I want, but that's not for everybody. And yeah, and then you have to actually go get the cards that you want. And a lot of times, either your card shop that's local doesn't have all those cards that you got to order online. He hates ordering cards online, doesn't really do it.
It just kind of like takes the soul out of it. When you have the ability to just like
go
have any card you want, you just have to wait like a week for it. It just feels like
it does suck for that.
I don't know. There's something about like pulling cards from a pack that's amazing, and then like when you spot a card in a shop and it's like in a display case, it's
there's that, but also being able to see the website and be like, oh, the local card shop has this. Cool. I'll just go pick it up real quick. It's nice because you like being that guy that's like, I snagged it before anybody else did.
I don't know. There's just like a weird difference to me for like purchasing cards online. It just feels like it just sucks the soul out of it.
It's not as interesting. I'll give you that. Okay, so price is part of it. But we're not saying that like cards should be like way cheaper, because we understand cards are going to have a price to it. It's just this game, that's part of it, is just if you want to build a new deck, it's going to cost you a little bit. Even budget decks, most of the time what's going to happen when you build a budget deck is you build it and then you're like, this just doesn't work as well as I need it to. Why doesn't it? Oh, because some of the best cards that synergize with it cost like $20 a pop.
And that's not to go back on like what we were saying about just running the good cards.
It's not even that. There's cards that are there's cards that are like good, not great, but they're great for your deck because it synergizes really well. It happens to cost $20 because it's only been printed like once.
Yeah, it's not that we're against good cards. We're just against running good cards because it's the only thing. Like the only thing you care about is just like winning.
Good card tribal is just the most boring style of play.
Yeah, and also like I guess the price issue would be solved.
Well, I guess that is another topic, but we'll get into like the full price thing later. But we're talking about the staleness of the game. So for us, the other part, you said price to make new decks. So not being able to make new decks, make changes, whatever, that's part of it. The other part for me would be the opponents that I have. You make a new deck pretty frequently, I feel like. So like, and Brendan actually makes changes too. But like, we only have, it's 3 of us that consistently play. There's a 4th guy that occasionally plays. There's another guy that occasionally plays. There's another guy that very rarely plays. And basically, it's like we don't really ever have 4 people, or if we do, the person that's the 4th just either doesn't play consistently, can't play very long. They can, they're only there for a few hours and they're gone. We normally play for like 8 hours at a chunk.
This is kind of like a tight friends group thing that we have. I've played at a card shop a couple of times, but I honestly, like, a lot of the people at the local card shop are kind of just like grimy people.
Don't take showers kind of people? Is that what you're saying?
No, let's go with that. So, like, I tend to stay out of the card shop for, let's just say, health reasons.
Oh, that's a separate topic, but for me, the staleness, that's part of it, is the lack of different players, lack of seeing different cards, different play styles. Like, his play style and Brendan, our other friend, their play styles are completely different. And it's like, it's nice that he's got his certain play style. Doesn't mean you never play something that I don't like, but you got a different play style than Brendan.
I do not play to win the game. I play my own game, and I'm trying to win in a different way.
Yeah.
If someone makes me angry at the start of a game, I'll just focus all my ire on them. Or maybe I just don't want the game to end, and I'll just play group hug and make sure no one ever dies.
Brutal. It's like a 3-hour game every time. It's brutal.
Unstoppable.
So for me, the staleness comes from not having a 4th player all the time, not having a consistent 4th person. Sometimes I can be stale. Sometimes having 3 is nice, but not having a 4th.
Games.
True. Not having the money to make the deck edits that you want, not being able to make new decks as much as you want, like, because of money. But then, I just had it in my head. Oh, I remember. So the last reason I would say, like, that the game gets stale is because of Wizards of the Coast, like, what they make. Because we get super excited when, like, a new set is getting, released, and you see the announcements. You're like, okay, cool. What new cards do they have for my Commander deck? And I know that the sets aren't necessarily made for Commander. I get that. But for me, I'm right around, like, 14 decks right now, kind of trying to make 16, 17 decks. I got a few in the works. And I'm like, okay, if any new cards come out for that strategy, I'm like, that'll add some spice to that deck. And about every set comes out, and I'm like, there's only, like, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards that actually, like, interest me, and the rest I'm like, I could care less. So, like, a lot of it for me is how, and this is another topic, Wizards of the Coast, how they make stuff, but you talked about mechanics, about how they'll focus on a mechanic and be like, this set is all about this mechanic and this other mechanic, and then after the set's over, you'll never see them again.
Hey, go back to a mechanic. Go back to any mechanic, please. You remember, like, you've made other things before. I love, like, wacky new things. So if you make, like, a new mechanic that does some weird shit that hasn't been done before, cool. But can we get some support for the shit we already have? Like, I would love, like, a better set of cards to choose from, a wider pool, something to just spice it up, more options for... I don't know.
For me, I would say that what I want out of the sets as a Commander player, which, like I said, I know that Wizards of the Coast mind, they go, we already have, like, precons that are for Commanders. We already have, like, a Commander Legends set once a year. It's called different things, but it's basically for Commander players. I get that. My thing is...
Modern Commanders.
Yeah, but my thing is, there are plenty of cards that are in these sets that are throwaways that are like, okay, this is a common card. We'll just make it this. It'll have, like, the mechanic on it, but it won't be that good. But it'll be good for draft or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Standard. I don't know. I don't even think it's good for standard. But my thing is, there are so many slots in a set where I'm like, all you had to do was change the typing of this card, and all of a sudden it's like, you got something there. Because Tribal is one of the most popular things that people do in Commander, and there's so many times where people are like, as long as it's a decent card that's just as Tribe, I'll take it.
Yeah. Like they just added, Kamigawa was, like, my set. It's like they went into my mind and took a bunch of cards.
The artwork's beautiful. I'm disappointed with a lot of the stuff that's in the set, but the artwork for all these cards is amazing.
Foxes, ninjas.
It is weird how they give
frogs. They have, like, Gundams in there and shit. The shrine support?
Yeah.
Shrine support?
He loves shrines.
I had a Shrine deck forever and had to dismantle it.
And
because
I don't think you ever thought you were going to get support anytime soon.
No, I never expected Wizards of the Coast to remake something they'd already made before. But holy fuck, Shrines?
Yeah. So, for me, like I said, if I was Wizards and I was like, okay, how can we get more people to crack open packs? Commander's your most popular format. So, for me, yes, I'm not a Standard guy, so that argument about how you balance Standard, I don't know. I can't speak to that, so I'm not going to pretend like I know. But I'm saying if I was
Standard doesn't exist anymore. Don't pretend like you play Standard.
Yeah, that's true. So if I was trying to be like, how do we get people to open packs the most? Opening packs for us would be, and we did open some packs this last week. We'd open more. We'd open more if there was more, like, if I had like 20, 25 cards, I'm like, that's what I want out of this set, then I'd be like, well, it makes more sense for me to buy packs depending on like what the price of the singles would be. So it's like, if you had more cards in there that are just generically like, hey, that's good in this deck, that's good in that deck. Like I said, real quick with the tribal thing, Pirates is a deck that I'm trying to make, but there's just not enough cards. Curses is a deck that I want to make, but there's just not enough cards.
They did make like some curses.
I know, but there still needs to be more. There's dog cats. I tried to make that dog cat deck.
Hey, they changed it recently. Stop making dog subtypes, Wizard. What's with the fucking hound?
Well,
wolf,
they changed it.
Fox, dog, canine.
He wants canine to be one thing.
I just make it all one thing. If you made like puppy, I would find you. I would find who made puppy, and I would
make him squeal. So for me, that's just one simple thing of like, pick a tribe that is undersupported, and you'd find a lot of people being like, okay, cool, that card's not great, but it can go in my deck. Thank God, and I'll go after that one. Like I said, all you gotta do, Wizards, is make a tribe that's undersupported. Like, make a card that has for a tribe that's undersupported, and just give it, like, if it's a 4-mana card, make it a 4/4 with some, it has, I don't know, vigilance, it has haste, whatever. Like, people be like, great, I'll take it. Like, that's all it takes. It doesn't really have to do a whole lot. It just has to be part of that tribe. So that's one thing they can definitely work on. So yeah, that was just the topic of what they could do differently as far as the sets to play to Commander players, because I feel like a lot of times they're just I don't know who all this stuff in the set's for. Obviously, some people want them.
I got what was for me.
I know, but I'm saying the mechanics, like ninjutsu, the vehicles. I still think vehicles are something that Wizards could have done a lot better, but that's like an older topic. So anyway, what else we got on your list?
It was the design of cards.
That's kind of what we were just talking about.
Yeah, but like I don't know how to define it. It's like different artworks and stuff like that.
You're not talking about like design of like how cards function. You're talking about literally the artwork of the cards.
Yeah, the artwork of the cards. It's and I mean, I guess like cardstock and stuff like that. Like, what's with all the hollows that are like pre-gold?
That's a conversation that they're fully aware of. They just don't know if they can.
Apparently not. Apparently they were unaware. It's just, I mean, I can't really complain again because I can't stress enough how much I love Kamigawa.
Well, that's what I would say is that overall I think they've done pretty well with the artwork.
I feel like they missed on a couple areas though. Like I feel like it could have been done better, and I can't even remember the most recent sets. The vampire set that was just out.
So the problem with that set, like I said, for me, I don't really ever look at the cards and go like, man, that artwork's terrible, I want nothing to do with it. Very rare.
Sometimes the artwork is the whole reason I make a deck.
Well, that's true. An artwork can be so cool that you're like, I want to do something with that. But I'm saying for the most part, I think they do a good job on artwork. The problem with the last two sets, Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, the problem is those sets didn't really do anything interesting.
Yeah. And I guess that's part of the problem is like, you use up a bunch of like resources making cards that just sort of are meh. And I understand, I'm not asking for like more busted cards that go into good tribal. It's just,
I think, we watch, or at least for me, I watch Dies to Removal a lot. The Professor and Pleasant Kenobi, I watch their channel.
Sponsored by Dies to Removal.
Yeah. So I watch their channel a lot, and they had a conversation recently about like, is it better in sets to be like, overpowered or power creep, or is it better to like dial it back and just have underpowered sets? And I forgot exactly what both of their answers were, but for me, I still think it's better to have a set that's pushing the power level that you can dial back later, as opposed to, because what we had with Crimson Vow Midnight Hunt for me was underpowered sets, not interesting cards. They didn't really do anything that I'm like, oh, that's cool. None of it was really interesting to me. None of it was cool, and none of it was super powerful. So like even a generic card that's like, this is just a green card that's just good. I didn't see that. So for me, if they're not really that good and they're not interesting and they're not in a mechanic that anyone cares about, they're just going to get discarded. And that's why people will remember Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow as, oh, that's that time like that they just decided to do 2 Innistrad sets back to back. Werewolves and vampires, cool. Do you own any of those cards from that set? Not really.
I feel like there's a line in which we're complaining about like overpowered cards and then complaining that there aren't any overpowered cards in a set, but understand that there's an actual line that can be like walked where a card is good and balanced.
Toxrill.
Toxrill was amazing.
Toxrill, I think it's called Toxrill the Corrosive. He's a 7-drop that's it's like 2 hard black, 5 generic in his mana cost, but then he has a blue mana symbol in like an effect that he does. He basically makes slime tokens for every time an opponent's creature dies, and then he puts -1/.
I thought they were slugs.
Slugs, sorry. You're right. Somehow he gets like your opponent's creatures get like -1/-1.
I believe everything your opponents control get -1/-1 at the end of every turn.
That's what it is. At the end of every turn, and then when their creatures die, you make a slug token. And then I think you can sack a slug token to draw a card or something like that using the blue. Yeah. So anyway, it's a cool card. Is it super powerful? Yeah, it's pretty good. Especially if you had that as your commander, that's pretty good. But it's a card that goes to the 99. It's interesting, but it's not a card that I think most people would look at and be like, you have to ban that.
I would say it's a card that does something similar to what
it's kind of
Elish Norn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's like an acceptable way of doing Elish Norn. Like Elish Norn should have never been made. Toxrill's okay.
I disagree, but I think Elish Norn is fine to be made. It's just not a card. Yeah. Anyway, I think Toxrill's a great job.
The Predators, they were supposed to be powerful.
Well, except for the red one. They purposely made that one not powerful for some reason. They're like, here's your brothers and sisters, the 4 good ones. Yeah. You're the stepchild over here. Yeah.
Literally.
I give all my stuff haste and their creatures come and tap. They're like, yeah, but what do you actually do?
You're literally the red stepchild.
Yeah, oh my gosh, he is. That's what he should be called. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that convo. Okay, what else you got?
Token generation. So there's that.
Okay.
Akin to things that are like on a power level we just shouldn't have to deal with, like Elish Norn or Razaketh, not to bring them up 1,000 times. But it is like token generation, and akin with token generation, creating copies.
I'm #1 advocate for this. Get rid of that.
I don't have an issue with creating a copy,
but no one ever stops there.
When you have cards where it's like create a copy of everything you do.
When the CTBs.
Some of that's acceptable, but when you're copying things that do a lot of shit, I don't know where the line gets drawn, but I feel like you shouldn't be able to copy something that summons a bunch of tokens, and then that thing that was copied also summons a bunch of tokens. At a certain point, you shouldn't just have exponential growth. It's not game balance.
So in my end of this discussion, I don't play a single card in any of my 14 decks that say make a copy. As soon as I see the word copy, I go, I'm out. Will not play it. I don't. You're not a single card you can find that makes a copy in my decks. Okay, so for me,
You'll get there eventually.
No. My biggest problem with it is Brendan, the guy that we play against, and one of our friends.
This video is also brought to you by slamming on Brendan.
That's true. He's a good dude, but the way he goes about, at least Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, honestly, was, we had stuff that we like, but they weren't always the best stuff. He just gravitates towards, these are my favorites. Like, your favorites just happen to always be the most powerful things.
He's a good dude, but fuck him.
Yeah, basically. So he, for some reason, copies is like one of his favorite things to do because it's powerful. That's not, I guess, not for some reason. It's because it's broken.
He likes infinite power.
Yeah.
He is Palpatine.
So that's another conversation about infinites. We should get to that.
Yeah.
Is that not a topic on here?
No.
Okay, that's another one that I'm doing next, infinites. But anyway, copies, I just think it's the most easily abused mechanic.
It does end up creating problems.
Yeah, I don't see people making a copy of something and being like, you know what? Well, I guess the only one I can think of is like, there's an enchantment called Mirror Maid that you can play in Zur, but you can play in a bunch of other decks, and it basically just says, pick one of your enchantments, make a copy of it.
Do you play that card?
Nope.
Okay.
See?
It does say copy on it.
It does.
So that's why I call you.
No, I don't do it. But I like the idea of, okay, I would like 2 propagandas, or Ghostly Prison's available to be played, whatever. But, if you play...
I would like 2 Spheres of Safety.
Can't. Well, I guess you could do it if you had Sphere of Safety already out, but Sphere of Safety can't be searched off Zur, but I get what you're saying. Dude, if I get 2 Sunbird's Invocations, not in that deck, but I'm saying like different deck, that'd be cool. But, yeah, just making copies in general, I just think it's too easy, so... Like what he said, I'm not saying the mechanic shouldn't have ever been exist, but it's like if they could have regulated it to like you can only make 1 copy of this card. Like basically you can only make 1 if you have more than 1 copy of a card out on the board, basically you're breaking the rules, like you can't do that.
I feel like there should be I don't know how it would be possible to do inside of a card game, but I feel like the copy shouldn't be what the original was. Like the copy shouldn't be able to create tokens. Or the copy shouldn't deal as much damage as the original. Or the copy shouldn't be able to also copy something in case the copy copies something. Because then when you have a copy copying a copy, it just becomes...
Welcome to Pop Copy, can I help you?
Yeah, it just becomes insane. And then of course it's going to break. Of course the game's not going to be able to withstand like a state like that. How the fuck could it? And then I'd like to... move that into a different area because I just tried to slam on him like 3 times for the copy thing.
I don't play copies.
I know, but I would like to bring up the thought of having acceptable conditions to do unacceptable things.
Explain that.
Like say mana doublers. At no point should you be able to double your mana. It's just not an acceptable thing. I've done it though. You've done it.
I actually never have done it because I've never gotten out the card that does it.
You've never gotten that out?
I literally never draw it.
He plans on doing it.
No. So here's the thing. I'm working on getting a second card that can mana double. And I'll tell the audience what they are. Okay, so I have a Eldrazi deck, the colorless deck, Kozilek, the Great Distortion. I saw the blonde chick from Game Nights play it. And I was like, that looks like a lot of fun to just be able to get this big guy out that has, Annihilate or whatever, but on top of that, he can also counter stuff. I was like, I like that. And I like the idea of, like, playing a colorless deck. I just think it's kind of cool.
Budget deck. Just go ahead and pop it
No, it's not.
out.
It's the exact opposite. Okay, so they came out with a card that was in, might have been Zendikar Rising, but don't quote me on that. Maybe it was a different set, but I thought it was...
I don't think the set matters.
Okay, well, it kind of matters. It's a stone, and anyway, it was... 5 mana, it's I don't think it's a creature, I think it's just an artifact. And it says that your colorless spells, I think maybe it says cost 1 less, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. Oh, your colorless creatures get +2/+2, and then it says when you tap a man for when you tap something for colorless mana, it gets double.
We don't know the name of the card.
We don't know what it does. I think it's something Monument, but don't quote me on that. But I think it was Zendikar Rising. But anyway, so that card doubles mana, and when I played that, or I never played it, but when I showed it that like, hey, I'm having this in the deck, Jesse's like,
immediate.
Yeah, he was like, you're going back on one of your rolls.
Dude, it started with he's like, I'm never gonna play anything that has anything to do with +1/+1 counters. Has that now. I'm never gonna do anything that has anything to do with tokens.
Okay.
Has one of the most savage token decks.
Which one?
The snakes.
Okay, well, that one, okay.
The snakes.
No, real quick. The token thing, you have to back me up on this. It's almost impossible now to make a deck that has nothing to do with tokens. Because they put it in everything.
Nothing to do with tokens is a little bit... Like, if you generate a token, or, like, you have a card that generates a token every time you do something, and, like, there's a couple of those... That's fine.
That's what I'm saying.
But when your strategy is based around, like, every card generates some sort of token, or the point is to generate, like, fucking 51 ones...
But, bro, I wanted to make a teamer deck, and that Snake Leviathan was, like, the only thing that looked interesting, so I made it.
I want to die.
Okay.
Like, there's just tokens, and a little bit of hypocrisy here as well, because I fucking hate tokens.
And he has a spirit deck that literally like none of us can beat. That spirit precon that came out with the Crimson Vow, whatever.
It's a precon.
So easy, so easy.
Hey,
anyone could do it. Have a 5-year-old pick up that deck and they could win.
Pay $50 to win every game you play.
Pretty much.
But like that's part of the problem is that it's so easy to just be like token, tap, token. Everything has flying, so I attack and you can't block anything because I can tap all your creatures with this shit. The tokens do too much. I have instances where it's acceptable conditions for an unacceptable thing to do, like food tokens. When the tokens are kind of like useless, but in the right circumstances, you can make a lot of use out of them.
You know what? You just brought something up that I actually didn't think of initially when we were making our topics, but definitely needs to be a topic on this video. What's wrong with Commander? Treasure tokens. Treasure token. Are you serious? You can't seriously have that opinion. You really can't.
Treasure tokens?
What? Think about the most busted cards in our format. What's probably the most expensive red card that's a staple for Commander? Dockside Extortionist. We were just talking about it the other day. Dockside Extortionist. Why is it $70, Jesse? Because it makes treasure tokens, and it only costs 2 mana to do it.
Treasure tokens aren't even that good. You can't break the game with treasure tokens.
Right.
I'd like to see you try.
He's not being serious.
I am. You can't... Treasure tokens don't do anything. What's one... You sacrifice it. It doesn't even stay on the board.
Oh my gosh. Mana. You know what I'd like? What if I just had like 20 extra lands that, yeah, they might evaporate after I tap for it, but I'd like 20 extra mana. Yeah, that sounds great.
How about we just destroy all our lands after we use that shit? Well, useless.
I can't take you seriously. Okay, Smothering Tithe, terrible. Like terrible.
Garbage.
No, not a terrible card, just terrible design that they were like, yeah, this is cool.
It's actually kind of both, because it doesn't just work all of the time. Don't play Smothering Tithe. It won't fix your deck.
What are you talking about? Yeah, it will.
No, it won't.
Yes, it will. You play it and you're like, cool, now I have all this mana that I can actually play. I don't need to ramp anymore. I just kind of did.
It won't fix your deck. Stop telling people to play this fucking card.
I want it gone. Like, I want so many people to play it that the rules committee's like, this is a problem, but get rid of it.
Yeah, treasures are a problem. Don't play treasures.
Well, treasures... Before, when it was like, hey, pirates make treasures, then we have a few... Like, when Smothering Tithe initially was a thing, I'm like, okay, that's one thing for white. Maybe it's not that bad. But have you noticed they literally won't stop making things that are like, what do we want to put on this card? Make it where it just makes treasures. Like, there you go. They're doing that now so often that I'm just so tired of it.
It's okay. Hey, at least, not every color makes treasures. At least green doesn't make it. It's already...
Oh, except for Old Gnawbone. I know you were doing this on purpose. You wanted me to bring it up. He has Old Gnawbone. Is that a busted card, Jesse, or is that perfectly fine?
No, Old Gnawbone, he's old.
Old Gnawbone, 7/7 flyer for 7, and on top of that says, whenever any creature of yours deals combat damage to a player, make that many treasure tokens. That's not busted.
Make that many treasure tokens. What?
That's not busted. Okay. Anyway, treasures are a problem, need to be stopped. They just need to come up with something different besides just, when in doubt, give something where it can make treasure tokens. I was more okay with it with Pirates. The fact that everyone's doing it now, it's wrong.
Pirates deserve to make treasure. It's a thing. Pirates take treasure. That's what they do. Why is a dragon making treasure? Like, I would get it if it were, a little bit more thematic, like it was a dragon sitting on a hoard of fucking treasure. But why does the dragon have everything make treasure?
It doesn't make sense.
What's the story there?
There's none.
Why does Dockside Extortionist fucking make a trillion treasure?
Because they're like, I don't know, let's make it a goblin pirate. We don't know what to do with it. Okay.
Why did Hull Breacher exist?
Just once again, it's the treasure thing. Like, we could make an argument for Smothering Tithe, Dockside Extortionist both being banned, and Old Gnawbone. You could make an argument for those cards needing to be gone.
Old Gnawbone does not deserve to be banned.
Because it just came out.
Yeah.
That was your D&D set, right?
Yeah, it sure was. Make more D&D sets. Make more D&D sets. Kamigawa. Give me a Kamigawa D&D set. No. Please, God.
No. I'm happy because for a while we were all saying, hey, it would be nice if they went back to Kamigawa, and they did. Just wish we would have gotten more legendary support. But anyway, we got a few good legendaries. Just the dragons, basically.
We got shrines.
Only you care about that. Okay, so we talked about the token thing. We talked about tokens. Glad we did that. What else you got?
I think we've gone through like legitimately everything. Anti-playstyle, intentionally broken, stale, banless, rule 0, price, design. That's everything I had planned anyways.
Okay. So I guess to summarize this, the problems with Commander, like we talked about, ban list, what to do with it, what cards should be gone. For me, when I talk about like what would send me away from Commander, what would like, make me be like I need to take a long fucking break from it.
Links.
What?
Links.
Oh god. That's in Yu-Gi-Oh! The edition of Link Monsters, I tried to put up with it for like 2 to 3 years, and eventually I just had my breaking point when I was like, they're saying all this is okay, and if you try to play anybody online, that's all you see is like, oh, I'll just make any 2 monsters turn into this.
Hopefully none of these people care about links.
Hopefully. But anyway, so for me, what would make me like take a break from Commander would be, it wouldn't be like a push card because it's still only our play group that's like, playing stuff.
Yeah.
For me, it would just be the staleness, I think, is the number one issue. It wouldn't be price because, we could still find like budget options for stuff.
Yeah.
But it would be the staleness, and as we said, part of that is price, I guess, with making new decks. And then the other part of it is just, lack of new players or whatever.
The point I would like to try to make is that, like, at this point, after playing this game for, like, 5-6 years...
Well, for us, it's really... I mean,
5?
Maybe for you it's longer, but for us,
Well, I mean, for me specifically, it's like 8 years.
Okay.
Because I've been playing it a little while.
I would say we're at, like, 4 years at this point.
Yeah, cool. Well, like, 4-5 years, because I feel like it's been a little bit longer than that. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is this game is garbage, but I'm going to keep playing it.
Wait, you think Commander's garbage now?
I think all of Magic the Gathering is garbage. But they're adding Dungeons and Dragons into it slowly, so, like, it's getting better.
Dang. It's weird because, like, with what you just said, like, I remember, like, the professor, he says so many times, like, Magic's the greatest game in the world. Like, it's the greatest thing that exists.
Dungeons and Dragons exists.
Okay, well, that's your thing, not my thing. I don't think it's that great because I was pretty tired of that after a few sessions. So that's just us disagreeing. But I do think that like we're hitting a point, maybe not with power creep necessarily, but I think Commander, there needs to be a shakeup where a lot of I think that's honestly probably one of the biggest points. I think a lot of the staples that have been around for a while need to go.
Yeah. Fuck staples.
So just like
This goes back to Yu-Gi-Oh! For me, man.
Kind of, but think about it. If a lot of the stuff that we were like, I'm tired of seeing that card, tired of seeing that card, I'm tired of seeing that card. If we got rid of those and kind of let the format figure itself out again, I think that'd be kind of nice. It would feel like we're actually kind of playing, not a different game necessarily, but just, we're in a new era of Commander if a lot of the stuff that's been around forever and everyone knows it's good and everyone plays.
I don't know. At a certain point, it just sort of feels like when you've played the game for a while, you just learn to rely on certain cards to do a specific job for you, and then build the rest of a deck around those cards so nothing new ever really happens. The game does get a little bit stale. And I guess part of that's on us for not seeking out other ways to do similar things to what we're doing in order to make these new things work. But at the same time, the design of the cards isn't wildly different every time, and there's multiple copies of like the same effect with different names on different cards. So it's like
I think if they keep trying to make like new commanders, I think it definitely helps. Like for me, I love 3-colored commanders, so when I see a new 3-colored commander comes out that actually has an effect that I like that Curses commander, I'm like, okay, like that's a card like I'd like to build a deck around, whatever. And I think building new decks helps. I would say the solution to stale commander,
the final solution.
What?
I'm sorry, you said a solution. I just wanted to throw in the final solution.
Okay. I think the solution to if you're feeling like the game is getting stale for you is take breaks, figure out something else to do with like your buddies, and then that way when it's been, because we missed it, like we took like a month off, like around Christmas time we took a month off. We all kind of agreed, like, even though the games were kind of similar to what they were before that, we're like, it was nice to play again, though.
I still want to make this video more of an open discussion, even though we kind of just gave, like an answer, what are other ways you guys have found to like spice up the game? Because I would like to add some more spice back into the game.
So
not just take a break and be like, I've missed this.
So I guess we'll wrap up the video. We're literally right at an hour right now. We hit an hour.
Fuck.
So I guess we'll summarize with this. I just want to in the comment section, whoever watches this, put what you think the problems with Commander are. If we get enough people that say a certain thing, we probably will address it. But say what you think the problem with this Commander, and then comment on what you think of our opinions. If you're like, hey, I think you're way wrong, or if you're like, yes, man, thank God you said that. Like I agree with you, because I do. You know those people that do YouTube videos that go like, I really want to hear what you have to say, and then you notice they never comment back on like any of, they don't respond. I'll respond.
I will never respond. He'll tell me, and then I'll tell him to say something.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we will try to make more of these since I don't really want to do one video every 6 months. So
yeah. I don't know. I think that's honestly a few too many videos. I think we should stretch out to like once every 2 years.
Nice. Way to get a lot of subscribers. All right. Peace out.